So yesterday I posted a video after a panel discussion I participated in at a college in Montreal and got a lot of good feedback from it. A lot of people watched it on Facebook. I was a little worked up. I got a little crazy. I'm passionate about this stuff. It's my life. You know, I'm a lifelong musician. That's all I've ever done. It's all I know how to do. You know, this is it for me. So I get really worked up about this stuff. The biggest critique I got about it was that people were frustrated that I didn't provide any practical steps to furthering a music career based on some of the things that I was talking about. Here are 10 things that I think you could do that are relatively painless if you're a forward-thinking musician, if you're a forward-thinking business person in today's music climate. Number one, the first thing that you could do that you're probably not doing, reach out to potential advertising clients to license particular tracks out of your catalog. Now, typically what you would do is you would go to music houses, or you would go to, jingle companies, or you would go to people who specialize in licensing music to larger corporations that are looking for advertising. And you would, place your tracks with them in a library situation or whatever. I hate that model. I hate it because it just doesn't make any good business sense. You can go directly to companies that are not Nikes or American Airlines or, the Googles of the world, the big, Apple. You can go to smaller companies that are not necessarily on the radar yet with an advertising voice, if you will, or a POV, and you can just directly approach them and tell them that you're a fan of their product or you're a fan of their service and you want to be on their team and you want to be their music person. It's very simple. I've done it hundreds of times. Now, you get rejected a lot, but you get rejected a lot too being in a library somewhere. That is basically a game of roulette that you're playing with thousands of other composers who also have their material in those libraries. But if you're savvy and you can have a conversation and you're not a fucking egghead, you can call up some of these companies, you can call airlines, you can call up-and-coming clothing companies. Back when I was still living in Los Angeles, I happened to be dating a fashion designer at the time, and I learned a lot about the fashion world. I mean, I went to several fashion weeks with her, and it was just kind of this weird, mesmerizing experience for me because I didn't know shit about fashion. I didn't know anything about designer clothes or any of that kind of stuff, but I learned a ton just hanging out with her, and I approached several clothing companies that were up and coming at the time, Free People, Anthropology, sort of at the time up and coming companies, and I got a couple of bites. I placed some licensing stuff with a few of them, and I do that all the time still. I mean, when I release my albums, where the real money, where the real bank comes with that stuff is licensing it to advertising, and almost every time it's been me approaching them directly and just going straight for their marketing department and finding out who is responsible for putting together their advertising campaigns and interfacing with all those people and trying to basically just dig your way into the core of the apple until you find the person who's a decision maker. Number two, reach out to famous YouTubers and ask them if you can feature your music in their videos. I know that sounds really stupid. I know for some of you you're probably going, what, really? Dude, seriously? Check out the subscribership on Casey Neistat's videos. Check out the subscribership on Sean McBride's videos, or even stupid stuff like Danny Duncan or FauziTube, or any of these YouTube star people. They have millions of people looking at their stuff every couple of days. I have personal friends who have literally become famous musicians because their music was featured on some YouTuber person who just blew up. Now, you say, well, that's not going to make me any money. It depends on what you value. If you're so desperate to make money that every little thing that you do has to earn income, has to earn revenue, you're kind of fucked anyway, because you haven't built yourself out enough margin to sustain a music career. The more and more and more opportunities that you push for, the more and more opportunities that you pitch for, the more spec stuff you do, the more risks you take that may or may not pan out in the long run, the more return you're eventually going to get. I think YouTube is a huge missed opportunity right now for a lot of people, and I see it. When I go to record labels and I'm doing consulting stuff, I see so many people building a fan base by hitching their ride to some famous YouTuber. It's mind-blowing to see that happen because it's just such a different way to do it. But it's happening. It's happening. Three, Facebook ads. Another huge missed opportunity by musicians. When I released Eastern Chronicle, I found out about Facebook ads. I mean, I knew about them before, but I didn't really know how they worked until then. Now, that was 2013. So Facebook ads have actually evolved even more since then. And when I released Quayla, that's all of the marketing we did. We just did Facebook ads and Facebook dark posts, which if you don't know what that is, just Google it and you'll learn all about it. It's a little complicated. It takes a little bit for you to like figure out how to use them, especially dark posts, but it's super effective because of the Facebook algorithm and the way that you can target people who enjoy the genre of music in particular that you're producing. So check it out. Facebook ads, you gotta spend a little money, but you gotta spend money to make money sometimes, you know? And I think that most releases, independent releases especially by film composers, my God, you know, if you have a soundtrack that's coming out, or you're independently releasing something, or even if you're releasing it through a label or a service, and you're not using Facebook ads to target your specific demographic, you're really screwing up. You're really screwing up, because Facebook and Google have the two deepest well of data mines out there on the internet right now on people. All this Pokemon Go stuff, everybody thinks it's just a game. It's actually a data mining operation. That's all it is. It's a data mining operation. You have to give it access to your Google account, so it finds out where you go, it finds out where you travel in the city, where you walk around to, what businesses you walk past, what things you're interested in. It's scary and phenomenal at the same time. And so you might as well be using that kind of stuff to your advantage and milking as much value out of that stuff as you possibly can as a content creator. So Facebook ads, Twitter cards, Instagram, and number 4, Musical.ly. Musical.ly is a fairly new social network that's built just around music. Now, a lot of people are using it to lip sync to different tunes that are available on there. A lot of people are using it to create videos. But as a musician, there are huge opportunities that are not being taken advantage of for Musical.ly. And people are really paying attention to it. It's a fast growing platform. And if you go to the iTunes top 100 and you look, it's in the top 10 every week. It has been for like the last 6 or 7 months. So it's a huge platform that's being neglected by musicians. Number 5, reach out to genre bloggers. Remember Rolling Stone and Hit Parade and Spin and all those magazines you used to read when you were a kid? Well, those things don't really exist anymore because the internet. What has eclipsed that and what has really kind of cannibalized that whole business is online bloggers and online blogging societies. The EDM world basically runs on bloggers. Unless you go clubbing a lot in a lot of different countries, it's a little bit more difficult. They don't cross-pollinate as much as they do in other genres. But if you get online and you start looking around and you see the symbiotic relationships of all these people that are kind of intermingled into this one massive genre and several lists of subgenres, it's pretty massive, and it's all threaded together and tapestried together by bloggers. When I released Quayla and Eastern Chronicle, actually, but mostly when I did Quayla, I got interviewed by tons of African bloggers. When Verena and Calvin and I went to Japan last summer and hung out with David Freeman, I did like 4 or 5 interviews there just on that one trip. With blogger people. It raises awareness of your stuff. People who've never heard of you before trust those voices and they trust those people's curation of content. A lot of time you can offer the blogger a free track to download off their website. Sometimes they have a lock on the article if it's a membership site. If they do, you can, maybe give them a discount to the album or whatever. If you have Bandcamp, you can do that kind of stuff. It's a huge subculture, man. If you check it out, if you Google it and you really do your research and do your homework, you'll be shocked at how many of them are out there. Number 6, create some music videos around your material and upload them to YouTube and Facebook Live. People would rather watch a video than listen to a podcast. They would rather watch a video than read an article. There's a new statistic out that 82% of people that watch YouTube watch it with no sound. So that's why all of a sudden you're seeing a lot of subtitles in videos and a lot of auto-generated like closed captioning and stuff on YouTube. So for music people, that's a little bit more difficult because it's all about the sound, right? But if you create a compelling visual that's happening and people go, oh, what the fuck's that? And they raise up the volume and they actually listen for a second and they get hooked, then there you go. Now, why do I say to upload it to YouTube and Facebook Live? Platforms have different ways of disseminating their content based on how their viewership consumes that content. Linking your YouTube video to Facebook, for instance, is great, but it's not as great as uploading the video natively to Facebook and using Facebook's built-in, video system, because the algorithm in Facebook doesn't respect third-party links, obviously, as much as it's going to coddle its own native system. That's an important distinction that people don't realize, and I'm guilty of that too. I mean, I do that all the time with YouTube and with podcasts and stuff. I hardly ever upload native video like I'm doing right now with this to Facebook. But the viewership on a natively uploaded Facebook video is way, way more improved than the viewership on a YouTube that is linked onto Facebook, and that's what you're using to drive traffic back to your YouTube page. So respect the platform, and yes, you can upload a previously produced video using Facebook Live. You just have to know how to do it. If you Google, there are several open source programs that you can download that you can use to broadcast a video that's on your desktop or on your phone or whatever live through Facebook Live, but it doesn't have to be a live video. Number 7, identify some smaller, off-the-grid, off-the-radar television production companies and offer to build library material for them that's exclusive only to them. Now you might say, like, why would I do that? I have my stuff in libraries all over the internet, both exclusive and non-exclusive. Why would I ever want to? Well, because if you're anything like me and you're always looking at profit margins and you're always looking at how much money you're able to net out of the deals that you make, I would much rather have the profits of a net deal going direct B2B to a customer than having the profits from a Jingle Punks or an Audio Jungle or whatever that are minuscule in comparison to going direct B2B. I don't want to make other people rich. I want to be the one who's getting the money. To me, it seems like a logical thing to go direct to some smaller companies, not an NBC, not a Disney, not a Paramount, not a CBS, not an ABC or whatever, but find smaller production companies that are selling shows and trying to pitch shows to those larger networks and offer to be the music person that's going to provide library material for those production houses. Now, I did that actually successfully 4 times just out of my Los Angeles apartment before I left LA and came over to Asia, and I built a company in Singapore. We do it every single day of the week. It's better because you're going direct to the business rather than having this middleman try and shove your stuff through the pipeline in competition with all of these thousands of other composers that also have their tracks logged at these places, competing for all those placements with you. For me as a business person, I look at the ROI of that, and I just hate that model. Just like the library thing I spoke about before. I hate the model of library. I just hate it. It's so useless on so many levels. I've always been a huge believer of just going direct. If you look at my IMDb, in the mid-2000s somewhere, I don't remember the exact years, but I did a show called Exploration with Richard Weiss, and I did every single season that they had of that show until it went off the air. And it was on National Geographic, and it was, I think, on Animal Planet for a while as a syndication thing afterwards. But I approached the production house through a friend of mine who I went to high school with. He was actually working on the show as a producer, and I pitched doing a library for them, a custom library for them that would be exclusive just to that show. And I did, God, man, by myself, this was before I had a freaking assistant or anything. I must have given them 1,000 cues over the course of the 3.5 or 4 years I did that show. The money-making opportunity that was set me up for a long time to really kind of experiment around with other things. I didn't have to take every freaking job that came along. It was really a great deal, and it was one of the smartest things I think I've ever done in music. And now I've done that multiple times, and actually, like I said, we do it in Singapore with IMM every single day of the week. That's all we do. We build custom libraries for shows. Put your business hat on and just go directly to people, you know. And the key is, again, don't start huge, you know. Don't, oh man, I want to be a, you know, you got to be patient. You got to be patient, and you got to be willing to put in the marathon work that it takes to build a career over time. And I'm not saying that don't shoot for the moon, because we all have to do that too. But pick those moon shoots carefully. You know, like, pick your battles carefully. The rest of the time, just go for smaller things that aren't necessarily on the radar yet, but you see potential in. You know, they're looking at Jingle Punks, they're looking at Audio Jungle, they're looking at all these, you know, crazy online situations, and they're going, man, how do we license this? And we need that track, and blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't it be great if they just had somebody that they could just go, okay, here's the list of things we need, do it. Where am I at? 8, be generous and helpful with people. Now, this is kind of a philosophical one, but I really believe in it. I've gotten more fans of my music and my output and my production by helping other people with their careers than I probably have people just stumbling upon my stuff and going, wow, that sounds really cool. I'll share my secrets, I'll share my process, I'll share my workflows. God, I do 3 podcasts. I'm doing a vlog now. I'm doing this video. I'm not skittish about my methods, and I don't shy away from helping people that need help. I get tons of emails every day with questions. I just got an email from somebody in Australia just a second ago, you know, help me out, figure out my pricing scheme, blah, blah, blah. Now, I can't respond to everybody, but more often than not, I try to do it myself. You know, if it's a Twitter thing, I'll tweet them back. If it's a Snapchat thing, I'm all over it because I'm on Snapchat all the time. And I'll video you back my answer because it's quick and easy. It's like 10 seconds. You know, being helpful and helping people out it goes a long way, man. If you're thought of as a nice person, and not everybody in my industry thinks I'm a nice guy. There's a lot of people out there that have a lot of different opinions, and that's fine. But I think generally, if people think that you're a helpful person and that you're generous and that you'll put in some time to help them out, they're much more endeared to you at that point, no matter what you do. Number 9, play live as much as you can. Play live, play live, play live. And some of you don't play instruments, and that sucks, because live is still the #1 musical human connection. And I'm convinced it probably always will be. I'm fortunate, I'm a drummer. I back other artists. I play in different bands. I'm always sitting in with people. Eventually I'd like to tour my own stuff if it ever came to that. If I ever reached critical mass where I could afford to go out and tour my own stuff, I absolutely would. Right now I'm creating a festival with somebody because I want to do festivals, and why not just create my own? So, I'm always looking for different ways to get out and play live. I think people don't think through completely all of the ways that you can do that. I was in a situation a couple of months ago. You'll see it on my vlog if you follow my vlog, because I vlogged the whole thing, where I was playing with somebody, and when we got to where we were going, the gig got canceled. And it sucked because we'd all dropped what we were doing. We all traveled to this place to do this show. It was supposed to be like 5,000 or 6,000 people, and it was going to be awesome, and it had been advertised. It was all over television. It was all over the radio. It was all over the internet. It was everywhere, right? It was going to be this huge thing. We got there, and the show got canceled like 2 hours before we were supposed to be on stage. And so we spent the night in this great hotel, and we came home the next day. It was a total waste of time. And I thought to myself, this could have gone down so many different ways. If we would have just tweeted out, hey, sorry the show was canceled. We're sorry to everybody who bought tickets. It was beyond our control. It wasn't anything that we did. It was certainly not our fault. It was the promoter's fault and something that they did that was really terrible. Tomorrow, on Saturday, we're going to play a free concert in the park. Do you know how many fucking people would have shown up for that? Do you know how huge that would have been for that artist? Do you know how massively cool it would have been for those fans to show up and just have a free acoustic unplugged show in the park, in the local park? It would have been all over Twitter. It would have probably made the news. Because this was a fairly big act, it probably would have done, it would have won us more fans than we had at the time. Absolutely, I'm convinced it would have. We're gonna do this and we're going to make it up to you guys. That would have been fucking huge. We didn't do that, but if it would have been my show, that's totally what we would have done. Fan bases are built one person at a time. We are out of the paradigm of mass consumption across a national landscape. That doesn't work for acts anymore. You won't ever see that again, probably. It's a onesies and twosies type deal from here on out. That's just where we're at. That's just where we're at. So it takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more interaction. But if you're the kind of person who doesn't have any problem getting up in front of people and performing, you got to be performing every weekend. And if you're not, and you're scratching your head and complaining about why you don't have a following, it's probably fucking why. And on the heels of that, number 10, you got to get out. You got to get out and be a human being. What does that mean? That means a lot of things. You physically have to get out, yes, but you also can't be a hermit online. If you have a YouTube account and people are leaving comments, you have to respond. Twitter account, Facebook account, Snapchat, you've got to fucking respond to that stuff. You can't just let it go. Recently, I've been into Twitter video ever since they introduced Twitter video. If somebody tweets me, I just video them back. If I'm in the car, if I'm at the beach, if I'm on tour somewhere, if I'm in a bus, if I'm doing, whatever, it doesn't matter. Wherever I'm at, I'll tweet them back in video and say, hey man, thanks for the tweet. I'm really glad you like the stuff. And, the next album's coming, 2017. And, thanks for being a fan. I really appreciate it. Do you know how many responses I've got from doing things like that? People freak out. Now, I'm not famous. I'm just some dude. I'm just some fucking guy. That happens to put out music, on a fairly frequent basis. It's amazing when you realize that, yes, the internet has enabled you to really disseminate your stuff to anybody, but it's also created sort of this vacuum where we are subdued and really kind of retracted from the social experience. And if you insert yourself back into that social experience by being creative online and figuring out how to penetrate your audience and penetrate your fan base, it goes a long way. So hopefully those things help. I could think of about 1 million more, but you need to figure it out for yourself. There's so many things you could be doing. And notice I didn't say anything like hire a PR company or get a record deal or get on the radio or any of that shit, man. It doesn't take any of that stuff. It takes organic, in the dirt kind of work to build a fan base. To build a clientele, it takes direct interaction. Nobody is going to go through SoundCloud and listen to the myriad things on SoundCloud, the thousands of people that are on there, and stumble across you and go, we could put that in our show, maybe, if that person's open to it. And then do all the work to find your email, contact you, go back and forth. Nobody's gonna do that. If they do, you're fucking lucky. 1 in 1 million, once in a lifetime lucky. So why not improve those odds by getting productive and taking some initiative and being a self-starter and putting on your thinking cap business-wise and going out and going directly to some of these people and doing it yourself. That's true DIY. DIY is not sitting at home and hoping that the phone rings. DIY is getting off your lazy ass and getting out there and doing it yourself.